Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, you'll be listening to a hypnosis session that was built around a session for a client that had been on various diets and weight loss strategies for about 15 years plus. And I've worked with a lot of weight loss clients, and one of the things that sometimes you notice doing this so much is what's called the law of reverse effect, that actually sometimes for certain parts of life, the harder you try, the more elusive the outcome is. And weight loss, paradoxically, is one of those things, because it a lot of the time is based on a premise of struggle, and it's built on a premise of sacrifice and doing things that you don't really want to do. And if you ask the average person on a diet, do they enjoy the diet? The answer is normally no. And if you ask them what are they doing the diet for, it is simply because they want to lose weight. They're doing it for the outcome, not for the process. But losing weight can be enjoyable because physical activity can be enjoyable. There are lots of foods that are very healthy and nutritious that works with the body to help the body metabolize fat that are delicious. So it's certainly possible to lose weight and enjoy the process. But if there is this premise, this belief system that in order to lose weight, I require discipline and I require motivation because deep down I don't really want to do it, I just want the outcome, that's where self-sabotage comes in consistently. And because she'd spent years doing various diets, she also had lots of contradictory information. And that isn't unusual because lots of different weight loss strategies have a different emphasis. So if you can lose weight by doing lots of cardio, for example, and being in a calorie deficit that way, you can also lose weight by doing no exercise at all and just changing your dietary habits. You can have lots of protein, like paleo and Atkins, or you can have lots of fat, like ketosis, and you can have natural foods, like kind of more of the paleo kind of approaches, and you can have lots of vegetables, which the plant food diets, for example, very healthy. And that can lead to this idea of mixed messages and conflicting information, which can create a feeling of analysis paralysis, that you don't know what to do. You can't trust yourself anymore because, should you be doing more exercise or less exercise? Should you be eating fat? Should you be eating protein? Should you be eating vegetables? Should you not be eating at all? Because there's lots of different fasting approaches. And that can lead to a lot of stress. And I could see this in this particular client. And therefore, the whole premise of this hypnosis session is, for 14, 15 years, she's been on various diets. Scrap the diets, like no diets whatsoever, and go back to intuitive, healthy choices. Now, her biggest fear was that, well, if she's not on a diet, won't she just go crazy and eat whatever she wants? Most people aren't on a financial diet, and yet they don't rush out and spend all of their money in one day, because they intuitively make good choices when it comes to money. And I wanted to tap into that way of thinking when it came to weight loss, that she could make intuitive, healthy choices with an understanding that every choice has a consequence, and tapping it into intuitive feedback like guilt, regret, but also feelings of pride, satisfaction, and intrinsic motivation. So if you have been on various diets for a long period of time, I think you'll benefit from this hypnosis session. Some of the key suggestions are linked to the client I was working with, so it might not be perfect for you. But if you are curious to lose weight in a way that works in harmony with your body rather than in resistance to your body, there will be a link to A couple of things. One is a link to book a free 30-minute consultation call with me. That's in the show notes. But there's also a code, and that code is Hypnotist. So on the download section of my website, you'd be able to get 50% off up to 10 different audio downloads, and many of those are weight loss related. For now, though, find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and just enjoy this session. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow feelings of tension, stress, or worry to leave your body in your outward breath. As you breathe in and breathe out, get a sense that you're becoming increasingly aware of signs of tension in your body. And maybe it's obvious, like a clenched jaw, holding an expression, or a feeling of tightness in the neck and the shoulders. Or maybe it's subtle, the rigidity of a finger, the position of a leg. And as you become increasingly aware of these clues of tension, get a sense that as you're breathing in this resourceful feeling of relaxation, you're giving permission to your body to let go. You don't need to hold on to this tension now. I want you to accept that for someone following rules, someone making decisions based on conflicting information, for years chasing a goal that the closer you get, the further away it becomes, wouldn't anyone be stressed in that situation? Wouldn't anyone be frustrated? So give permission to yourself to feel what you feel. Accept that emotions are all temporary, and that here, in this moment, you can let go, releasing those feelings of tension and allowing feelings of self-doubt to also leave your body. And I want you to imagine two islands. An island that represents your conscious mind, and another island that represents your unconscious. And they're separated. And I want you to imagine, just in your mind, building a bridge. And maybe this is a wooden bridge, or a metal bridge, or a bridge made of stones. And I want you to imagine you're seeing the construction of this bridge. Perhaps you can imagine the two different parts of the bridge meeting in the middle, so that the conscious is joined with the unconscious mind. And I want you to feel in this moment, when the two islands are connected, that you are also reconnecting with a part of you that you've lost touch with. That intuitive ability to make good choices. Perhaps for a while you've been following recommendations and advice, rules and systems. And that's fine for a few days or even a few weeks. But living life like that means that you start ignoring your intuition. You start to question what you should eat, when you should eat, how much you should eat. But now that you've rebuilt a bridge between your conscious and your unconscious, I want you to imagine that messengers are traveling back and forth over the bridge. These messengers enable fluid communication from one island to the other island. As you accept that in so many areas of your life you are already making good choices, and that choices don't need to be perfect to be good, and that sometimes it's necessary to make bad choices in order to become wiser and make better choices. I want you to imagine that you are walking over the bridge from your conscious to the unconscious. And I want you to imagine that the other island reminds you of the coastal shoreline of a place in Scotland. You're traveling over the bridge, and perhaps it connects above a cliff, and maybe to incredible landscape that is natural. And I want you to imagine that you've arrived to the other end of that bridge, the island that represents your unconscious mind. And as you look up at the sky, I want you to see a cloudy, overcast day. As you look out at the ocean, I want you to imagine seeing beautiful waves, powerful waves. And maybe there's cliffs and rocks. And it gives you a sense of a particular emotion. And maybe that is a sense of calm and tranquility, but also resourcefulness. That there's nothing for you to do in this place, just to be in this place. And sometimes when we spend so long doing, we forget how to just be. And as you look out at this incredible coastline, I want you to recall a time in your life where you could just be how you wanted to be. You didn't have to think about diets. You didn't have to think about how many calories you were consuming or burning. You didn't have to exercise as some form of weight loss strategy. I want you to recall the time when you ate because you felt hungry. I want you to think of a time where you were active, not to lose weight, but just because it was fun to be active. There were times in your childhood that you would play for hours, running around, and it didn't seem like exercise because it wasn't exercise. It was you having fun and moving your body. And I want you to see that version of you and how active you could be, not because you had to, but because you wanted to. And notice the facial expression, notice the energy. That younger version of you wasn't doing it to lose weight to improve their fitness. They were doing it because it was fun to do. And I want you to get a sense that you can reconnect with that feeling of being active because you want to. I want you to imagine moving into that younger version of you and feeling how good it feels to be active just because. I want you to scan your body for where you feel that feeling of enthusiasm, excitement, joy, fun. And I want you to point to the location of where that resourceful feeling feels like it is. I want you to tap into that feeling, amplify that feeling, and to realize that back then it didn't feel like exercise because it wasn't. And you get all the benefits of being active. I want you to disconnect from that version of you, but keep that feeling right there in that location. And remember a time at some point in your life where you enjoyed eating delicious vegetables or fruits, but specifically at a time where you weren't on a diet. A time in your life where you discovered a food that was healthy and nutritious and you just enjoyed it because it tasted good and you liked it. And when you can recall a time like that, let me know by nodding your head. And I want you to see yourself like you're someone else, a younger version of you really enjoying that food. A healthy vegetable salad or fruit. And notice the facial expression was different. That version of you wasn't eating that food on the condition that you lost weight. You were eating that food because you enjoyed eating that food. And I want you to associate into that version of you where you feel like you're eating that food. And to feel how good it feels to make a healthy choice, not because you have to, but because you wanted to. It felt good to make that choice. And notice that when you eat because it's enjoyable and because it's healthy, it makes it taste even better. Enjoy that feeling and realize that there are so many foods that you love eating and they happen to be healthy and nutritious. And I want you to think of how many of those nutritionally dense superfoods that you already love. And it doesn't matter if it's the cruciferous vegetables like the cauliflower and the broccoli, or perhaps the beans, or maybe it's the leafy vegetables that you enjoy, or the crunch of a carrot, or the creamy texture of an avocado. And think of all those fruits. I want you to think of fruits as nature's candy store. Only these sweet items also contain things that contain information. I want you to think of all natural vegetables, fruits, and salads as giving information to your genetics, information about how to digest your food, how to release hormones into your blood, how to change the relationship that you have with yourself. And I want you to accept the suggestion that you're not eating these vegetables, salads and fruits because you have to. You're eating them because they taste great and they are healing the relationship with yourself. They're giving you the ability to rebuild your relationship with food. Years and years of being told what you must eat, what you have to eat, when to eat, how much to eat. If there's part of your unconscious mind that just likes to eat just because you want to eat, let me know by nodding your head. And I want you to tap into that feeling that sometimes rules are helpful, but the most powerful rules are unconscious rules, not conscious rules. For example, there's many things that you don't do, not because there is a law, but because you've realized that it's not useful for you to do that. You don't shout at strangers in the street. You don't run naked in busy public places. And I want you to get a sense that you already know how to make great choices proportionate to the cause and effect relationship, that everything that you do has consequences. In life, in work, when you do good things, you tend to be rewarded. And when you make other choices, there tends to be consequences. And I want you to think about those areas of your life where you're making good choices. Perhaps with money, perhaps with time, perhaps with personal relationships. And if you accept that when it comes to choices, you either win or you learn. You either make a good choice or you learn a lesson as to how to make a better choice in the future. Just let me know by nodding your head. So why would it be any different with food? There will be some foods that you eat that your intuition is able to tell you that that wasn't a good choice. And intuition will often speak through emotion. A good choice is a choice that feels good in the moment and feels good when you think about it later. Emotions like regret and guilt are often clues that something that felt good in the moment wasn't the best choice with the benefit of hindsight. And I want you to think of all of those food choices that felt good in the moment and also when you thought back on that choice. And notice that there is no food off limits, just certain foods that it doesn't make sense for you and your body to overindulge in. And if your unconscious mind feels confident that trust comes from opportunities to earn that trust, I want you to imagine an environment where there are no laws. Imagine that unconscious island and there is a village of people and there are no laws at all. When there are no laws and no external rules, doesn't it mean that the level of trust in that community needs to be higher? That all those different parts need to be aware of each other and work in collaboration. So in a future where you're following less rules, doesn't mean less responsibility, it means more. That because you can do whatever you want, there is a duty to do those things that are in your interest, not because you have to, but because you want to. And I want you to imagine that future, a future of you in the next few weeks and months, not following a diet, not following a system, but still making great choices anyway. Notice that you're snacking less. Notice that your portion sizes just happen to be smaller. Notice that you're eating slower and chewing more because you really want to enjoy the food that you're eating. Notice that you're drinking more water, not because you have to, but because when you drink water, it's good for your body. Notice that you're being more active with your body, not because you're following a plan to lose weight, but just because when you're more active, your body releases endorphins, dopamine. When you do activities and sports with other people, that connection hormone of oxytocin gets released. And when you feel good in your body, you tend to have more serotonin. I want you to get a sense that in every sport or activity or exercise you've ever done, when you've accomplished something, it feels good. And part of the reason it feels good is that dopamine rewarding you for making a good choice. And as you see that future where you're being active because you want to be, you're eating well because you want to, notice that your body is changing shape. Because you're no longer forcing your body to change shape. Your body is changing shape as a side effect of you making excellent choices consistently. I want you to imagine a fairyland in a fairy tale world where a small child is trying to catch a rainbow. Only the closer they get to the rainbow, the further the rainbow seems to disappear to. And I want you to accept the suggestion that for a while, you've been chasing something, and the harder you've chased, the more elusive it's become. And perhaps there was a time a long time ago where, because control was rewarded with results, you've been trying to get back those results through using force and control. And I wonder what happens when control is substituted with harmony. That you do things that align with your body. The food you eat is the food that your body needs. The activities that you do are the activities that you enjoy. And as the trust between you and your intuition grows, with feedback coming from the emotions that you feel, doesn't it stand to reason that you'll make better and better choices by learning from those choices that weren't so great? And I want you to picture yourself a year from now. A year of not trying to lose weight, but paradoxically seeing yourself slimmer and healthier than ever. But also, more importantly, that future version of you, I want you to see yourself that doesn't worry about how to eat, that doesn't worry about how to exercise. See that future version of you not worrying about when to eat, how much cardio they should be doing. I want you to see that they've let go of the rules and the regulations, the timelines and the frequencies, the checklists. I want you to see a future version of you slim, healthy and happy, but not having to think about food and diets, and notice how much happier you look. And if this future version of you is a desirable version of you, let me know by nodding your head. I want you to accept that the harder you try, the more elusive this version of you will become. But paradoxically, the more that you're focused on your healthy choices that align with your body, that make you feel good in the moment and when you think about it later, you are magnetically attracting that future towards you. And I want you to accept that this is not a possibility. This is a destiny. And this destiny, this future version of you, you are attracting not through the rules that you follow, but the choices that you make. And you are unlocking the resources within you to make excellent choices. Choices that you're choosing to make, not being forced to make. I want you to imagine that you're there back on that rocky shoreline, looking out at that incredible ocean and the sea and the waves and the cliffs. And I want you to accept that something has changed, that you've let go of some of those labels, you've let go of some of those rules, you've let go of some of those conditions and replaced it with a willingness to trust yourself again, to trust that you have the ability to make good choices and to learn from bad choices. And as you accept that to be true, imagine crossing the bridge again back to the island of consciousness. Because it is in the land of consciousness that you will be making those choices. And I want you to accept that emotions, thoughts, hypnosis, and suggestions are things that you can reinforce through the choices that you make. They're like a fragile seed being planted into fertile soil that the choices that you make reinforce and facilitate and empower this fragile seed, growing into something strong that will get bigger and bigger and stronger. Returning to the present, as you listen to my voice, take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that all parts are back in the present, but feeling better connected to yourself and feeling that you can trust yourself to either make good choices or to learn from them. Starting to count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox. the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.